On this episode of Carnage, we're going to talk about the quickest cars we ever built and raced on the channel. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Carnage. Now I was just looking through the stats before and I realized that 58% of you are not subscribed to the channel. So reach down right now, right now, and hit that subscribe button for us. It costs nothing and means you won't miss any of the episodes, and it helps us out as well. But that really spun me out that 58% are not subscribed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, if you weren't aware, I've just come back from a 3-week racing holiday in the US where I flew over and bought a car and did a barra swap, and I documented all that on my own personal channel, Scotty's Garage. So if you want to check that out, you can go and have a look at that. But it got me thinking about drag racing and how long I've been drag racing and the cars that we've built over the years here in Carnage and how fast, what's our top 10 list look like, in Carnage. So I sat down and had a bit of a look at it, and I've come up with a list, and it's actually quite surprising, So, yeah, it's worth having a look at. Plus, since I've been back, nothing's gone right. We haven't got a video for this week, so it's kind of this or nothing. So this place is about the same temperature as a meat locker right now. It is freezing cold, and nothing seems to have gone right this week. So let's take a trip down memory lane and have a look at some of the cars that we've built over the years of Carnage. I mean, we've been doing this for what, 8 years now, over 8 years. So we've built a few cars, and some of them have been pretty surprising. So let's swing into it. So I've made a top 10 list, but there's a couple outside of the list. Yeah, there's more than 10. So, and it's interesting actually that the slowest car on our list, maybe it's not that surprising, was the Barina. Remember the big block Barina we built? Well, we actually bought it as an unfinished project way back in the day. And it was this little Barina with a C20XE motor in it, so a 2-litre motor. They never came with that motor. They came with smaller versions of it. But the 2-litre motor came out in the Calibras. And so we bought this as an unfinished project from someone. And man, that thing ripped. It did a 15.25 at 93 mile an hour. And I think we could have got it into the 14s with more practice and just more time. But, it's always hard getting cars out to the drag strip. We don't live next to a drag strip like Cletus does. So getting to the drag strip sometimes is a bit of a mission, especially with cars that aren't registered. But yeah, 15.2 was not bad from that little Barina. And like I said, I think with more practice and some better tyres, we could have got that thing solidly into the 14s. And yeah, it was a good little car. I wish we'd done more with it, but to be honest, we were starting to do some circuit stuff and hill climb stuff with it, and people weren't watching. So that was kind of the death knell for that car. And then Mr. Dodgy, also just outside the top 10, he did a 15.21 at 92.9 mile an hour, so almost the same mile an hour as the Barina. But for a big block car, it was kind of a slug. I'll be honest, that motor never lived up to its potential, especially in its standard form. It was like we bought this big block crate motor thinking it was going to be all that, and it really wasn't. It was, she was a bit of a slug. So would have liked to have done, well, we did try to do more with that. We did a head and cam swap at Motor X, except I forgot to tip in the Molly lube right at the end, and it ate the camshaft on the way home, like when we did the startup and that sort of thing. It all seemed to be pretty right. And then Telf drove it back from Motor X to the workshop, and it ate the camshaft. And that was kind of that with that car, and we ended up selling it as an unfinished project for someone. A guy in Sydney bought it. He's got it going again, and I think he's had it up for sale again. So he put a 440 in it, bought a lot of our 440 parts, bought the car and the 440 and a lot of parts, and put a car engine together, got the car re-registered up there in New South Wales. And yeah, it was it's a great cruiser, but not much of a performance car, I've got to say. Big, heavy car. Yes, a lot of cubes, but like I said, it was kind of disappointing in its both power and speed. Which brings us to the top 10. So, top 10. Number 10, Dad Ute. That's right, there she is. Up there on the hoist. I've only got it sitting up there at the moment because I recently rebuilt the transmission and I just needed the hoist to use. The trans runs fine. It's just got a slight issue with first to second. It's got a delay, so I've just bought a new accumulator piston for it. It's on its way here. I'll slip that into it and the trans should be all good. But it did a 13.26 at 102 mile an hour with a slipping transmission. That thing will go 12s, which is not bad when you consider that is just a little old 318. No stroker, nothing fancy. 318 with an Edelbrock carby. There's not a lot of magic in that. You know, it's just, yes, it's got Edelbrock heads on it, but they're not ported. It is a fairly simple build. And if we can get that thing into the 12s, well, Dad would have thought that was hilarious. Dad's no longer with us, obviously, but he would have thought that his old farm ute running 12s would have been hilarious. And that's kind of the aim I'm going with that. But still, 13.2, it's not far away from that 12-second zone. And it's just a cool old ute, you know. It's not bad, like I said, for 318 Cuba. If it was a 360, we'd be easy into the 12s, you know. But 318s, no one really does them. So I thought, let's do a 318 and see what we can get out of it. And it's performing pretty well. So, yeah, that was number 10. Number 9, remember the 2K challenge we did? There was one of so the first car we built here in the workshop was Mr. Dodgy, okay? And then straight after that, we did the 2K challenge, which was $2,000. So we bought 2 cars from Grays Online. We bought an AU Falcon and a VT Calais. And it was an AU XR6 manual and a VT Calais auto. And then we got Kane and Bubba in here and gave them $2,000 to spend on the Calais, and we had $2,000 to spend on the AU. And so we turbocharged the AU, me and Kian turbocharged the AU, Bubba and Kane nitrous the Commodore. And to be honest, in terms of performance, like we won the dyno side of the challenge, but they definitely won the drag racing side. So we smashed them on the dyno, they smashed us at the drag strip. But yeah, the AU, being a manual, it was very hard to get off the line. And we could have got it faster, but we were very protective of that T5, knowing that if we blew it up, it was going to cost us a lot of money to fix. And the T5 transmission, not known for their longevity, especially in drag racing launches, we had to sort of baby it off the line and then baby it through the gears a bit. And that thing, yeah, we ran, well, actually it was Kian that did the best time with that, a 13.00 at 117 mile an hour. I ended up doing a 121 mile an hour run out at Heathcote with it, but again, it was only like a 13.2 or something like that. So that car, you know, 121 mile an hour, that car should be like low 11s, high 10s if it had an auto. With the manual, yeah, no, it was, like I said, 13.00 was the best we've got. And again, I wish we'd kind of taken that car back to the track and done more with it. But that's around the time that, you know, COVID come down on us, and yeah, you know, it was just everything sort of went wrong. And then someone bought the car from us, and it's in Sydney, and I really don't know where it's at these days. Someone did reach out to us and say they bought it and it wasn't running very well and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what he wanted us to do about that, because it was not the guy that we sold it to. So it was running fine when it left here. I have no idea what happened to it after that. So, yeah. So that was the XR6. That was number 9. Number 8, Superman. Superman, number 8. It's not bad when you think about it. It's a little V6, and that was with the 3.8. It's got the stroker now, but obviously we haven't raced it with the stroker. But with the little 3.8 and the supercharger and the intercooler and stuff, it went 12.53 at 106.9 mile an hour. It's not bad for a V6, and it didn't cost us a lot to build when you think of it. It was like a fairly budget build. I think we worked it out that to run a mid-12 for that car, it was about, including the purchase of the car, I think it was 16 grand, something like that, which is not bad. Mid-12 second V6 that you could drive around on the street. And we did drive it around quite a bit until someone in the office forgot to pay the rego. And that happened to a couple of our cars, actually. A couple of cars all ran out of rego when the old office, this is prior to someone that's taking us over, the old office forgot to pay rego, and therefore a couple of cars got deregistered, which kind of sucked, because right now we haven't got a single registered car here in the Carnage workshop for various reasons. One, because of the rego thing, you know, people forgetting to pay it, you know, and then other, you know, we've been reported for, you know, people just can't mind their own business. Some people report us for, you know, oh, these guys are modifying their car and you need to check their car and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, come on, guys, really? So, yeah, we've had a bit of that as well. It's the price of fame, I guess. Some people are going to hate on you and some people will do everything they can to screw with you. So, yeah. Superman, number 8. Number 7 is also a bit of a surprise, and that is the Toxic Avenger territory. Remember that? We bought this territory with the aim of cutting all the weight out of it and seeing how fast it could go down the drag strip. As it turned out, it didn't actually go as fast as we thought on the day. We were hoping that we get it like really fast, well, at least, you know, 13s or 12s, but it only ran a 14, which was bit disappointing. And then we had a nitrous backfire that set fire to the engine bay, and it was kind of like, yeah, you guys are done. And then later on, we turbocharged that car, and you know, that was when we met Zane at Max Performance, actually. So we brought it down to Zane, and we put a turbo on it, and yeah, that car made some decent power. I think made over 300 and seem to remember 320, 340 kilowatts at the wheels. Like it made some power. And then it went 12.18 at 114 mile an hour, which wasn't too bad, but we did end up getting kicked out of Heathcote, would you believe? We'd already been kicked out of Calder. So we pretty much got kicked out of all the racetracks. And like this car was the subject of some divisional council discussions and stuff like that, like why was this car allowed to run at Calder and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there was some discussions in the background being held about that car, and then, you know, Russell owned Heathcote at the time and he wasn't happy with us, and so basically told us not to bring it back. So yeah, we pretty much had nowhere else to race that car, so we pulled it apart, pulled some parts out of it, cut the cage out of it. I think we gave the cage to Harry and Cordy, so they could utilise it in a car. But yeah, it was a bit of fun, but the car never really went as fast as we thought it would. You know, 12.18 was decent, but, you know, it wheel spun off the line because we didn't put any decent drag tyres on it or anything. We thought all-wheel drive, this thing will hook up. Not really. It really still needed some drag radials or something on it to help it, you know, put down the power, because it had no weight over the rear at that point. So yeah, not as fast as we thought it was going to be. But here's a surprise. Number 6, the VT Calais that Bubba and Kane built. It went 12.12, again at 117 mile an hour. So we went pretty similar mile an hours with those 2K challenge cars. But yeah, those boys, they really smacked us hard. At 12.12, I mean, if it held its axles together, because it broke axles repeatedly. So yeah, that was its weak link with the axles. It would smash the axles out of it with the nitrous. But 12.12, yeah, when they did that first run out at Heathcote before they got kicked out, funny enough, yeah, they got kicked out, but they went 12.12 the first thing in the morning, and yeah, that thing ripped. It went pretty well. Not bad at all. Number 5, the original the OG Turbo Taxi. And Turbo Taxi is running again. It's actually parked outside the workshop right now. We've just got the exhaust fixed on it, so it doesn't sound like a tractor, or not as much as a tractor right now. But yeah, so Turbo Taxi is running again, so we'll get that to the track again soon when things warm up a little bit. It is, like I said, pretty cold, so not good for track temperatures at the moment, so it's a little bit hard to go racing when the tracks are so cold, because we're not going to get the best performances out of the car with the tracks the way they are. But yeah, Turbo Taxi went 11.01 at 125 mile an hour, 125.9, so say 126. In fact, it actually went 131 mile an hour in Sydney just a couple of weeks before. So the car has a 10 in it for sure. It really does. But yeah, the last couple of times we've taken it out, it's just been all bad. And yeah, hopefully this motor will last a bit longer. I mean, the mission was always to run 10s on LPG, and like I said, it's gone 11.01. I mean, it doesn't get much closer than that. 11.01 when we're looking for that 12. And it popped crossing the line at Calder Park, and you know, I had no brakes, no, you know, like, because it shut the engine off. Obviously, the engine was almost sawn in two. So, you know, it had no power, no brakes, no power steering, nothing like that. And sort of had to like get it stopped, but also try and get it off the track so it wasn't dragging fluid all the way up the track. But yeah, that was exciting times. So it brings us to number 4, which is the Lexon, the ultimate sleeper, our quad cam V8 Toyota Lexon. That thing, it legitimately rips. That thing is a great sleeper. Every time we take it to the track, people come running back to the pits after we do a run just to see what engine is in it, because they know it's not an LS. You just know. When you hear that thing go down the track, you know it's not an LS in that car. It sounds totally unique, and it really does go hard. And it's gone 10.31 at 136.6 mile an hour with 308 gears. Just let that sink in for a minute. 308 gears, 28 spline axles. I don't know why we haven't blown the diff in it yet. It's got a true track in it, but still 28 spline axles. Yeah, that thing should have broken an axle by now, especially with the trans brake. And like I said, it goes 10.31, 136. That thing will go 9s. We'll get that thing into the 9s, but we never want to cage that car. So after it runs a 9, I don't know what we're going to do with it moving forward. But yeah, we don't really want to cage it because it's not that sort of car. I would like to get it registered again, but again, it was one of those cars that fell afoul of the people forgetting to pay rego. So yeah. But anyway, it would be good to get that back on the road. It'd be great, a great drag challenge car or something like that. Good fun car. And like I said, we'll get it in the 9s. Should do it pretty easily. But yeah, we're just waiting for the temps to warm up just a little bit. Yeah. Number 3, we're out down to the top 3. Number 3 is the Trovo, the original Trovo, the best. I mean, that thing, for a car that we bought as an unfinished project for like $1,000, came with a 1JZ in it. Yes, nothing was hooked up. So we had to hook it up, get it running, put a trans in it. Well, it had a trans in it, but no, like just things were not, like we had to redo a lot of the stuff. The only things that we never redid were the engine mounts. The main engine mounts, they were fine, but every other part of it we redid. And with the Haltech computer, man, we got that thing fired up within a few episodes and found out the turbos didn't work, so it had a twin turbo set up, didn't work, so we ditched all that, put a single turbo on it, and took it to Summoner. It's made power, but you know the auto wasn't working, so we ended up doing a turbo 400 in it. And yeah, with the turbo 400, that thing actually came to life. And what did we end up doing? Well, I mean, we took it up to Portland for its first run and started popping wheelies, and we're like, oh wow, this thing's going to be hilarious, especially when we start really putting power into it. And then, of course, yeah, it was hilarious. That thing used to lift the front wheels off the ground like, you know, the front left-hand side would be 1.5 foot off the ground or more, maybe 2 foot off the ground. It got some air under it. And it went 950 at 141 mile an hour. And yeah, wow. It was a real surprise package. We stopped running the car for 2 reasons. One, we'd spent no money on the front end of that car. So everything in the front end, all the front suspension, brakes, everything was as we bought it for $1,000. So we hadn't spent a single penny in the front end. And the whole car would vibrate in the top end like that. You just like, the whole thing's shaking. And I'm like, yeah, this is starting to get a bit scary now. So I said to the boss, like, all right, we need to make a decision. We need to put some safety into this car, or we need to move it on. And he said, well, are people watching? Well, kind of, yeah, it was starting to lay over a bit. It wasn't getting the views that we thought the car deserved. So the decision was to, well, A, try and sell it as a complete concern to start off with, and no one wanted it. Everyone was like, oh, you're asking too much for an old Volvo. It's a mid 9-second car. Come on, guys. This thing ran really well. So we ended up parting it out for pretty much the money that we're asking for it as a complete concern. So the motor went off to someone, and dash went off to someone else, blah, blah, blah. So we sold a bunch of parts out at the diff, all that sort of stuff, all went out to various people. And I ended up with a shell. It's in my garage at the moment, and I'm going to do some things with that. But because they're fairly lightweight, the old Volvo, and I've, you know, I do like it. I'm going to obviously redo the front end on the car, but we'll put a motor in it and go probably do some, I haven't decided if I'm going to do no prep racing or some radial stuff like Kenda and that sort of thing. We'll decide. But yeah, we're going to make it a bit of a dedicated drag car rather than a street car. So yeah, but 950, 141 is pretty respectable for an old Volvo. And that's when things get serious. So number 2, the DCU. All right, so we built this thing to do drag challenge with. Obviously, VPW came on as a sponsor right then, and that was a big part of it. It was like, let's showcase a lot of their parts, and that was the perfect car to do it. Like a, you know, LS powered ute. I mean, they made so many parts for LSs. We thought, let's do this thing. But if we're going to do it, let's do it proper and make it a serious car, you know, something that will run serious numbers and we can do DC with and all that sort of thing. And, you know, the first time we took it out, so it was the build went longer than expected. I expected it was going to be like 15 episodes for the build, but some parts dragged on a little bit. Some parts took a bit longer, you know, because, I mean, you can't just put a cage in a car like this in a day, you know. You need, you know, to do it right, you want to do it over the course of a couple of weeks. Same with the rear suspension and all that sort of thing. So instead of 15 episodes, it ended up being like 30 episodes. But, you know, we took it out the track and went 880 on its first outing and found the converter. We reused the converter that was just on the shelf. And so we went, all right, let's get a proper converter for it. So Simon at Allfast did us a new converter, put that in the car, and it went 850 straight away. And yeah, this car will go 7s, no worries at all. It has gone 849 at 163 mile an hour. It's actually done 165 mile an hour, but on the 849 pass, it did 163.6, and that was at Tail and Bend, and we weren't even trying to do, we were trying to do an 850 because we were in the 850 class for drag challenge. And 849 was too fast, so we had to actually slow the car down, and we came back later and, you know, did oh God, what did we do? On the 890 or something like that. A lot slower than we intended, but, you know, it's just one of those days. When you're on drag challenge, a bad time to be testing and tuning. So, yeah, we handed in an 890 for that day, but it would have been nice to hand in like an 860 or something like that. That would have been good, but 849, too fast. So, yeah, and then we broke the power steering, I think, and then we had to drive back from Tail and Bend to Melbourne, well, to Heathcote with no power steering. It was an adventure, I've got to say. But that car, you know, I mean, since then we've driven it to Summernats, made 1,360 horsepower on the dyno. When we were at Tail and Bend, it was only set to about 1120, 1130, something like that, 1130 rear wheel horsepower. So it's making a couple 100 horsepower more than that now. So I think we'd be very close to sevens with it as it sits. But yeah, again, we're just waiting for things to warm up a bit. So, because that car really needs the track temperature to be right to get the best out of it. So, but yeah, 849, not too bad, and does it super safely. It's like a limousine. Just drive down the track. It does it so easily. Which brings us to number one, the car that did it easily eventually, but it was a bit of a struggle to get the 8s, and that was the Mazda MX5. Man, we bought that car and built it as a bit of a joke, a very expensive joke in the end, but you know, the idea was, you know, red center nats. They'd just sort of started, I think we're on the second year of red center nats, and it was kind of like, yeah, we will let you drive anything on the street. And let's put an LS in a MX5 with twin turbos hanging through the bonnet and drive it around on the street up there. And we did, and we had a blast. And after that, we're kind of like, all right, what are we going to do with it now, you know? And we took it to Tasmania and Power Cruise and had a blast with that. And we got some amazing video of Bubba drifting that thing around Simmons Plains. And it's a wild machine, there's no doubt. And then Luke Foley, we stuck him in it. I had to go to the States for Drag Week to cover Drag Week. So while that was happening, Luke Foley jumped in the driver's seat and went 996 with the LS in it, 141 mile an hour, and that was at Alice Springs Dragway. And so that was its first 9-second pass. But after that, people kind of got, oh, it's an LS, who cares, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if you don't care about it anymore, I'm putting a barra in this thing. So we did. I put a barra in it. And I tell you what, people cared all of a sudden, as in like they were angry that I pulled an LS out and put a barra in that car. But we had a lot of fun with that barra in that car. And the first time we went to the track, it went 980. It went quicker than it did with the LS, which was hilarious. And then we just worked on it, and we just went, all right, let's fine tune this. Let's give it more power. Let's put an anti-roll bar in it so it wasn't twisting up like that. So, you know, put the anti-roll bar in it, and it just launched nice and flat and straight. And eventually we're kind of like, this thing's going to go 8s. And we're like, all right, well, let's work on that. And we ended up putting instead of just a green top, so it went 9.0 with a green top in it, I think, and a small frame turbo. And then we went, we put, you know, a GT42 on it and a built motor. When I say built motor, it had rods and pistons. It wasn't that fancy. You know, it still had standard valves, unported head, you know, standard head, standard crank, nothing too fancy, and yet that thing made over 1,000 at the tyres and eventually went 822 at 173.78, which made it the fastest car that fastest car that I'd ever raced, but, you know, fastest car that we'd ever built. And it was in the top 5 of MX5s in the world in terms of performance. It was right up there. So, yeah, but it was also a car that worried us. It worried me personally, being the guy that's in there with my bum this far off the ground, you know, doing 170. I tell you what, 175 mile an hour with no roof feels very fast. And when you're crossing the line with your hand on the chute lever, just thinking, if this thing lets go right now, I'm dead. Like, there's nothing. Like, roll cage is gonna save you at that point. You're gonna end up upside down, and with the cage grinding away, it's just, yeah. That car had an 89-inch wheelbase, so very short wheelbase. It was actually remarkably smooth to drive when everything was fine, but it had the potential to get very sketchy very quickly, and thankfully it never did. But we pulled that thing apart before we sold it, and it's like, if the new owners want to put it together again, that is on them, and they can put whatever motor they want into it and race it, but nothing to do with us, all right? But yeah, we would have liked to, we did try to get that car into the sevens. We took it out for one last blast, and on that day it went 826, 825, 824, 823, 822, 823, one after the other. It was amazing, so consistent. But then the couple times that we tried to turn the power right into it, it stood up on the bumper, or on the parachute bar, really. It got all four wheels off the ground at one point. So, yeah. So that was a fun but sketchy car, and that's why we built this car, so we could run sevens much safer than that little Mazda. But yeah, that kind of wraps up our top 10 list with the Carnage cars. And you know, it's just the natural progression of things that cars are getting faster, we're getting faster. 8s are the new 10s sort of thing. So, you know, it used to be that you had a 10-second car. That was pretty fast, you know, and all of a sudden everyone's running 9s, and now it's 8s. Everyone's running 8s now. In fact, there's a lot of cars starting to go 7s and even 6s. And yeah, that's pretty wild, isn't it? How far it's all come and progressed. So, yeah, where does it stop? Who knows? But we're going to keep pushing. Like I said, we're going to go 7s with this thing, see how that goes, and then we'll move on to other projects. What they will be, I do not know. I mean, we've got the little Tirana behind us, but I don't think that's going to be a drag car, although it's light enough to be one. But yeah, it would need some serious chassis work in there to be a serious 7-second contender. And to be honest, these little Tiranas, when they're running 7s, they start to get a bit squirrely. So I'd prefer to run 7s in that than that. So yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane. It has, it's been a bit of a blast, what we've done over the years with the Carnage cars. We're going to do more, and you're going to see it all on future episodes of Carnage.